So at the same time that a number of us around the country are advocating and lobbying in our general assemblies and our legislatures and trying to get the laws changed and being harassed and attacked online, right and left, for our advocacy on behalf of ourselves, incarcerated brethren, family members, and others who have gone through this horrible scourge of being attacked by ICAC and the nanny sting operations, comes a new threat now that will help to stoke the fear and loathing of a public that doesn't understand what ICAC is doing, despite the fact that we've tried valiantly to convince people by showing them the facts. You don't have to believe us. Go look at the data, go look at the information, go look at the research, go look at the facts, go look at the evidence, which they steadfastly refuse to do. So I've said over and over again that the majority of these stings are on the deep and dark web. I mean, that's where they should be, but the majority of the problems are there, and the stings should be there to match it rather. And they're not. And I've been attacked by John in VA, who gave me a very, very long list before I finally blocked him because he claimed I said they were not happening on those secret platforms, that police were not doing more to get that. And he got a long list of times that they had done that and what they had encountered. Fair enough. But that's not what I'm saying, and it misses the point. What I'm saying is, despite the fact that police in this grant database, which I'm going to append to the end of this video, where they show almost $1 billion, according to Bonnie Burkhardt, total that they have given, including multiple millions just in the past year for on a 3-year program. Despite that, it says right in their descriptions that they spend the majority of their time training officers, trying to get ahead of true predators who have very sophisticated technology to do their deeds, and they do it on the deep and dark web. That's their focus, according to them in their description. But that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're standing on our necks on dating sites, social media sites, gaming platforms, because that's where it's easy. See, when you get a grant, you have to have a particular time frame and a particular problem that you're going to solve within that time frame. And you better come up with some stats. You better have some people. So what do? You go online and you don't claim that you're going on the deep and dark web. You're not carrying out these sophisticated operations because it's very, very hard with BitTorrent protocols and other sorts of things that I don't pretend to understand fully all of them, but I know people who do, and they explain these to me. That is very, very hard with some of the technology to track people down, which means that your statistics are going to start going down. Now, when you tell the public that that predation is out of control, like they've been doing for decades, when you tell them that, what happens? And then suddenly you go on the deep and dark web where the real problem is, but you're having trouble beating these people who have very sophisticated technology, so your numbers start going down. Well, then you go to Congress and you ask for money, and they're like, well, the numbers are going down. Why would you want more money, right? Well, guess what's happening? If you tell the people that there's a huge problem, and then you go on to easy sites where it's like shooting fish in a barrel because you have a turnkey system, then you can get those stats going up. It's very, very easy to do that. I'm not saying that there aren't people who are committing crimes against children, but they're not primarily on adult dating sites. They're in the home, they're in community centers, they're in positions of trust all around the world of the sorts that we've talked about. And certainly where there's very little law enforcement, which is on the deep and dark web. That's where most of it has to, common sense tells you that's where it's taking place. But why aren't they spending the majority of their time there? Because every time they do one of these things, it's not reactive, meaning they got a tip that somebody was in danger. It's proactive. They are deliberately hanging out and trolling on sites. And over again, we're seeing that what they're doing is they're beginning the conversation as an adult. They are tracking that conversation. They are cajoling. They are accusing people. They are baiting you. They are calling you names if you say you're not interested. Aren't you man enough? And these are the police doing that, folks. The police are doing that. And again, look at the evidence that we keep putting out there. Read the scholarly articles where they cite numerous instances where this is happening. Okay? I mean, we've got the most amazing thing that these folks, we have Fox Valley Technical College, which is a major hub for ICAC out of, I'm trying to think, it's in the Appleton area, Waukesha, I think it is. $1.62 million just to work on CSAM and some kind of competitive file network where the bad guys have a huge advantage. Again, I don't pretend to know that well, but they've got millions of dollars going to the Fox Valley Community College folks. In this particular program, just to deal with technology, is 1.662. Okay, they want to get ahead of the technology used by offenders. They're not even sure who these people are, but they're already calling these people offenders before they've even found them, which we revealed in the General Accountability Office um, uh, request for a study, which Debbie Wasserman Schultz requested back in 2020, July. And when it was released at the end of 2020, they interview police predominantly. They don't interview any of us. They don't interview independent experts who study this. No, no. They interview the police themselves. And the police refer to people that they haven't even caught yet as offenders. So they right away assume that people who are on these sites, these dating sites and others, are offenders before they've ever actually connected with them in any way, which sort of gives away the game, doesn't it? You're not even aware of what they're doing yet, and you're referring to them as offenders. Knoxville, Tennessee is another grant, okay? And here again, Knoxville, Tennessee has 59 affiliates, and they claim that they're going to be on the dark web, but that's not what they do. They don't spend time on the dark web. When you look at their public press releases from their police departments, they don't say that predominantly. They say they're on adult dating platforms, okay? They say that they were online, but when you dig down into it, that's not where they are. The something called the Search Group Incorporated, private entities are contracting with our government, and here training for combat technology facilities. Okay, combat. They're viewing it as combat against average and ordinary citizens. Again, you don't have to believe me. Go where they're doing their work. Okay, go to some of these places. Ask the police. Hey, where are you doing that? Where are you doing that? It's not on the deep and dark web, as they're saying, because it's hard to do it there. Here, the Innocence Justice Foundation. I took this note from the site I'm posting down below. $1.28 million for them. They are to mitigate trauma by officers who presumably have to look at child pornography to determine whether it's actual pornography or not. It would be nice to have something that would mitigate the trauma of people who are minding their own business and were entrapped by the police and snared, claiming to be something that they were not when they didn't even express any interest in having relations with children. Wisconsin Department of Justice, $1.5 million. National Institutes of Health, $1.723 million to do some kind of clinical trials which are not explained in their description. What sorts of clinical trials are they doing? And are they starting with the conclusion already taken care of that children are being exploited and where they're being exploited? Because, folks, the problem is we don't know the degree to which child exploitation is rampant, if it's rampant. I'm sure it's very bad, but it's not being pursued where it predominantly is suspected, where they are saying it is. That's not where they're primarily pursuing it. Here again, some place called NW3C Incorporated, which is a 5031C here in Virginia. They have over $2 million at the beginning. 4 grants I got just quickly looking at it, 1.5 million. And what they're developing is new coursework to train police officers to go after so-called predators. The problem is police are using this training, if indeed they're getting it legitimately. They're using it to create snipping tools, to move conversations around, to hide evidence, to add evidence to computers and technologies that people have, and to entice people to train police officers not to sit there and recognize exploitation, not to really protect the children, and to develop techniques to help children to counter predators. No, they're using those to entrap average and ordinary people on these sites. Okay. Bedford County, where a lot of this began, $1.6 million does not have an explanation of what they're using it for. NW3C, those not profits, okay, millions more. I just have a note here. I didn't have a number of what the millions were. California gets for various Indian police forces $1.39 million to train their individual police forces there. Okay. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money that these ICAC forces are getting. And here's the most ridiculous part. We have now a bill in the US Congress, co-sponsored in part by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the same Debbie Wasserman Schultz that we wrote to in 2022 to warn her about what ICAC was up to and to take issue with the GAO report, is co-sponsoring this legislation, as well as Richard Blumenthal, Democrat in the Senate. And they're not the only ones. There are numerous co-sponsors to it. This legislation, according to Ms. Burkhardt, would, among other things, provide even more money to ICAC and provide stronger qualified immunity protections for police officers, prosecutors, forensic examiners, and others, so that they would be even more insulated from scrutiny. And the problem that we have right now is not that they're going after predators. Wonderful. The fact is, everybody that they want to net is called a predator. Everybody is an offender, and they're not nailing the baddies. They're going after people who are 17, who have 15-year-old girlfriends, who, when they turn 18, they have them on child pornography charges, Romeo and Juliet cases. They're going after cases where they're simply having conversations with people who had no sexual intent at all. Because when you're on the internet, there are lots of different people. That's the element of the data of the digital platform and the data. And just because you're talking to a minor doesn't mean that you're talking about sex. They're talking about gaming platforms. Okay, they're talking through a variety of the means where I mentioned fetishism. So, you're dealing with very dangerous things. If people are talking about their fetishes and their fantasies, it's very easy to turn that around and make it seem like it's something that it isn't. Why aren't we getting to the bottom of the true nature of child predation and pedophilia? Why aren't we getting to the bottom of it, where children are getting hurt, and then develop guidelines and resources to encounter it? Why are we giving money over here to this group, money over here to that group? And that doesn't include the private foundational money and private organizations like John Walsh's organization, like Alicia's project here in that started here in Virginia, I believe, and others. It doesn't include any of that money. It's multiple millions, if not $1 billion total right now, and it is going to entrap people, a lot of it, who did not intend to have sex with children. Don't we want to be fair to everybody? Don't we want to take care of our kids and respect the Constitution, respect First Amendment, respect your ability to say the most vile things? Some of you out there, it fascinates me. You will protect the most vile, disgraceful, disgusting things. But when it comes to issues of child predation, everybody wants to get on the bandwagon and seem like they're the ones that are really in favor of protecting children. And by the way, how many children are you protecting by deploying fake child personae against somebody that you assure the public would have hurt that child, even though there's no sex talk and stuff, you assure them they would have hurt those children if only you hadn't arrived in the nick of time. Doesn't that seem a little bit too clever by half? Doesn't that seem like it's not quite going after where you know the baddies are, who have these sophisticated technologies that they can share files and all this stuff you're claiming on the deep and dark web? Why aren't you starting there? Why aren't you there? I submit to you because it's just easier to go after people and entrap them when you have a 5 point turnkey system to create crimes around otherwise law abiding citizens. Why aren't you? And again, trolls, just stop it. Go investigate. Not one time have you looked into what I've said. Not one time, because it's very easy not to. This is Norman Michaelation for ICAC Unpacked. I urge you to contact your congresspeople, urge them to vote against the bill, which I will put down here, and look over these grants. Read it over yourself and ask yourself where that money's going to. This is the 15th day of February 2025. Have a good day.